Today I'm going to show you how we can do some color mixing and also use up some of those scraps that we've been kind of saving as we've gone throughout this series. So I want you guys to start by just taking a small section of what's left of your green as well as a small section of what's left of your white. Take another similar sized piece of white and then just a little bit of black. So similar to paint, we can mix polymer clay together. So you're just going to knead it. It's going to start off getting kind of like a streaky or like marbled look, which is also kind of an interesting way to work with the clay. But today we're going to go for a straight color. So I'm going to get you to just keep mixing until the white and the green are totally blended together. There's the green, so now we've got a paler kind of teal color, and we're going to do the same with the black and the white to make a gray. Okay, there we go. So those are our mixed colors for today. So now we've been able to kind of create two new tones with the same clay that we've been using before. So let's take these and we're going to roll them out flat. That's going to be the first step in this process. So about 2 millimeters of thickness, just like we've been doing in the other projects. All right, I also want you guys to take a small section of that kind of camel colored brown, as well as a small section of white. These ones we're not gonna mix, we're just gonna use in their true forms, and give them a roll to kind of warm them up in your hands and roll them out flat. So we want them to be pretty even in thickness, nice and smooth on the top. All right, so these particular earrings are kind of a mix and match set. So I'm gonna go through and make a bunch of different shapes, and then I'm gonna show you how to put them together. So what I want you guys to start with is using your circle cutter to make a circle shape in your clay. And this is gonna turn into one portion of our mix and match set. So we're going to make kind of a moon shape, similar to what we did when we were making that kind of pushed tin look. So cut off part of your circle, and that's going to give us our moon shape. We're going to have to make one more. So I'm just going to take that gray, roll it out flat again, and make one more. So I don't need a full circle this time, so I just need one side of it to have the right shape for me. Take that scrap, set it aside, come in with your cutter, and get us those nice even moon shapes. So that's the first part of this set. The next thing that we're gonna do is make kind of a teardrop shape. Now with our small circle cutter, we're gonna just make two little circles in the top of our clay. This is going to be the tops of the earring. So now we can actually pull this right off, and that'll give us the tops where we're going to glue the backs on eventually. Now I want you guys to take this piece and we're going to just pinch off two little sections. Try to get like about the same amount of clay. How I check to see if I've got the same amount is I roll it into a ball, and then I see if my balls are the same size. So those look pretty similar to me. That's how I like to do this part. I'm gonna show you guys how to turn these little balls into a teardrop shape. So we're gonna pinch down, making kind of like a flat cookie shape. And then we're going to pinch the top, turning it into a raindrop or a teardrop kind of shape. So that's going to be how we get the bottom piece for this earring. So this is just like organic molding into a shape. We're not using a cutter for this. Just doing your best to get the clay to be as even as you can get it. So that'll be hanging underneath the moon shape. And you can do the same with the other. So we're just gonna pinch the top portion and kind of flatten it out. I have a look from the side just to make sure that my clay is pretty even. And because I've used the same amount of clay, they'll have really similar shapes when they're next to each other. Just kind of give it a tap. Okay, so we're gonna add some detail onto this piece. So I want you to take your needle and we're going to create this kind of little walking path pattern. So what I like to do first is map out what that pattern looks like. So I take the tip of my needle and I just kind of map it out. So I'm gonna do sort of a semicircle that's gonna like trail up a little bit. So that's my like initial mapping. Now I'm just gonna start coming in with my needle and thickening up those lines. I like to make it go a little bit wider in spots and then narrow out and go wide again. This look reminds me a lot of kind of like marbling that you would see in rocks or like marble countertops. Kind of this streaking look. And then I just keep pressing with the tip of my needle, adding all this interesting texture. And what I like to just try to do is make sure that the edges look quite well defined. So that's kind of the goal for this piece. So there's the one. And then I just try my best to mimic the shape on the other piece. So I map it out, and I give myself a little bit of a semicircle. I plan where I want my thicker pieces to be. And then I just go in and define it. Now I always find once I've done this, it kind of pushes out the edge of the clay a little. So I just like use my finger and kind of reshape the edge a little bit. And that'll give me that nice marbled look. Now I want you guys to take your hole maker and just at the very tip, and now I want you to make sure it's as close to the tip as possible. You're gonna add in these little circle shapes. You want it to be nice and thin because we're gonna connect them with a jump hoop. So we don't wanna leave too much clay or the jump hoop won't fit. And do the same with your semicircle or your moon shape. We're gonna do another one here because we're gonna connect it with the jump hoop. And be careful with this because I always kind of mess myself up at this point where I will forget to put a hole in one part and then they don't come together after they're baked. So I'm just gonna again add a nice little hole to the top because now I need a place where it's going to connect to the top of my earring, where I can connect that with a jump hoop once it comes out of the oven. Okay, so there's one full set. Now I'm going to get into these two colors, guys, and I'm going to show you how we can create some different textures and use our cutters in some unique ways as well. However, I want you to keep in mind that at this point you're going to have lots of clay left over, and you can definitely get creative with the colors you like. So I've chosen the black and the camel color here, but if you would like to swap out colors, absolutely feel free to do that. I just want to give you guys the technique and the tools, and then I want you guys to get creative with how you're going to make this piece come together. So start off with your big circle cutter, and we're going to make a circle in the middle of the black and then also in the middle of the camel. Then you can just take your scraps and set them aside. So now I have these two individual circles. I'm going to cut these circles in half. So I want you guys to use your knife and as best you can kind of look at that half point, and you're just going to draw a line across your circle, and then you're going to press down and separate the circle in half. So there we have the halfway point there, and I'm going to do the same with the camel color. Draw my line across, push down, and just make sure it's nicely separated. Yep, that looks good. And the reason I call these like mix and match sets is because we're going to attach the black onto the camel color with a jump hoop, and that's why we can kind of use a variety of colors. It doesn't really matter what colors you use for this project. Okay, so I'm gonna decide that the top of this piece is going to be the top of the earring, which means I'm gonna need 3 holes. I'm gonna need one that's going to attach it to the back of the earring that's gonna secure it to my ear. So I'm gonna do that on both sides. Then I'm also gonna need 2 holes for the jump hoops to attach to each other after we divide up the piece. Again, I kind of come back in with my knife and just reshape those. Now these are going to be the bottom. So for these ones, I'm going to just do 2 holes. I don't need them to attach. On the top, so just 2 holes. Okay, so now let's play around with that texture again. So you're gonna grab onto your needle and we're gonna add a little bit of a path coming from the bottom up to the top. This one I'm gonna do a little bit more S-shaped. Let it narrow out in the middle. So I'm just mapping out that path. And then I get in there with the tip of my needle and just add all sorts of texture. Okay, now we're gonna wanna make a top for this earring. So I'm gonna just grab a little bit of my beige clay and I'm gonna do more of an organic top for this one. So I'm just gonna take 2 little sections of clay, roll it into balls to make sure that it's about the same size. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna press it down. So instead of using my cutter, I'm just using my finger to shape out the circle. It's just gonna allow it to be a little bit larger this time. Similar to the studs we created in number 2 of this series. All right, I want you to map out where those jump hoops are gonna go to attach the earrings all together. And then we can create some texture again. So for this one, I just kinda did a semicircle, followed the curve of the circle. So there's how it's gonna map out, and it's just gonna get a little wider towards the center. All right, so now we have this set created as well. I wanna show you guys what you can do with some of your scraps because I think that's important. So I have all of these just like little remnant pieces here. I can just take small sections of those pieces, and you might already have some pieces that are kind of mixed. So you can take just small sections. So I'm gonna take like a little bit of gray. I won't do the black actually in this particular piece. I'll take a bit of the brown and a little bit of the teal color. Now I'm just gonna put them together and give them a little bit of a twist. And then I'm gonna roll it into a ball. And it's gonna kind of create this marbled look. Now you can take your roller and you can roll that out. And then you can see how you end up with this like marbled look. And then you can cut circles out of that, or you can do like a little set of studs. I did a sample here of just a half circle with a little stud on the top. So that's just using those marble shapes. Now I also created some texture here. So I just used the edge of my pin and pressed some lines in. So that's another way you can kind of get creative with the clay. Example of how you can use some scraps. Here's another one. So this is leftover clay with some gold leaf in it. from another series, from the other series that we did. So it's the same thing. I can just roll this out, and although the gold leaf is already in there, it's just gonna give it a bit of a different look. So it's gonna have like almost a bit of a sparkle to it. So when I get in and I start adding my shapes, I end up with this cool kind of like glittery look to the clay. So again, you could cut this in half, or you could use it as a whole and put a top on it. So I just wanted to show you guys some different options for how you can use those scraps and definitely not just get rid of them. Everything in polymer clay is totally usable at some point. Okay, so now that we've got these pieces completed, we're gonna transfer them over onto our baking sheet. I've got some tin foil here with the not shiny side up, the dull side up. So I'm gonna transfer those over, and then I can bake them in the oven at 275 for about 20 minutes. Let them cure and cool down, and then I'm gonna show you how to put these pieces together. Okay guys, we are ready to do some finishing now. So grab your nice fine sandpaper and let's get rid of all of those rough edges. We've got the roughness taken care of there. Let's do these ones quickly as well while we're at it. We can do all the finishing at the same time. So sanding done for those ones. So I'm gonna line them up the way that I want them to come together. So there's my top and my bottom, and then there's my top and my bottom. So we're gonna be connecting these with jump hoops. All right, now this one has already been put together. I'm just gonna show you, once they're put together, you're just gonna flip them over. This one too has already been put together. We're gonna flip them over, and we're gonna just add a dollop of glue and attach our back on. So let me show you the jump hoop first, and then we'll just add some glue onto this one so you can see how the backs come together as well. So we're gonna need 1, 2, 3 jump hoops for this one and 2 jump hoops for that. So we're just gonna take our needle nose pliers and we're gonna open up that jump hoop just like we've done in the others. And then we're gonna start feeding them through the holes and attaching the pieces together. So now we have those 2 sets done. So we're gonna just flip them over and we'll do all the gluing at the same time. All right, let's attach this one now. So let's line them up and we'll get ready to glue these together. So grab your crazy glue. Give it a little shake if it's been sitting for a while. Just add a little dollop. It's gonna take our backs. And we'll allow a couple hours for dry time for those. So I just want to show you guys a couple more examples of how I used up some of my scraps here. So here's a set that I did out of black, and then I just used that glittery clay to kind of finish up the bottom. This is another set here that I did using the teal. I just used my pin and created a bit of a line pattern across the bottom by just pressing the tip in. So that's another way that you can kind of get creative and use up some of those scrap pieces. I hope you've enjoyed this polymer clay series and learned some new skills and had some fun while you're doing it. I'd really like to see what you guys have created, so please show us what you've made on social media. Check us out and make sure you show us all the ways that you've been able to use the clay in creative ways. Bye for now.